And welcome to Catholics Coast to Coast, where we just love to hang out. Podcast Central, it's where everyone's chilling and getting psyched and ready for the holidays. And while we do that, we get to catch up on our favorite podcast, find a few conversations to deepen our walk with God. And I'm Ace McKay, glad to be the conductor, so to speak, or am I the ticket taker? I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But in that, we love to get into the reflections as we start to wind down Year C. So let's get the Mass readings for this week with your word on the Word.
Can you believe that we are so close to Advent and then there's Christmas and...
Hold on. Can we just take a minute and close out the liturgical year first by talking about this Sunday when we celebrate the solemnity of Jesus Christ, King of the Universe? Hi, welcome to the Word on the Word. I'm Melissa, and this eager beaver here is Veronica.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with being excited for Advent and Christmas.
No, but this solemnity is a good reminder of why we're about to enter into a period of expectation and waiting for little baby Jesus.
Even though we're preparing for the birth of our Lord soon, this Sunday's gospel takes us to a moment during Jesus' crucifixion.
Luke writes that the rulers and soldiers mocked Jesus while he hung on the cross. One of the criminals being crucified along Jesus ridiculed him too, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us."
But Jesus never said a word during all of this. He only spoke up when the second criminal confessed his belief that Jesus is the Christ. And then Jesus told him that they would be together soon in heaven.
This reminds me of when Jesus was tempted in the desert. The devil kept telling Jesus to prove himself, but Jesus knew better than to fall for his tricks. He knew who he was and didn't have to demonstrate it.
Your challenge this week is to ask yourself, which person in the gospel do you relate to the most? The challenging criminal or the faithful one?
If you find yourself asking Jesus time after time again to step into your mess and it doesn't seem like he is listening, then take heart that he does hear you and is always trustworthy.
Or maybe you're more like the other and you're constantly professing your faith. Either way, stay true to Jesus because he is king of the entire universe.
And we'll see you next week here on EWTN.
Bye.
Bye.
Great reflections as we get closer to Advent, and always a good time when you can check it out at Podcast Central. Just search Word on the Word, or, of course, stream wherever you like to listen to podcasts and subscribe. I am Ace McKay, and if you've been a part of Beacon of Truth here on EWTN for any period of time, the love of music, definitely conversations that Deacon Harold and I enjoy having, but when can we break down songs that can give us a reflection and a new point of view on God? And so recently, got a chance to talk about a great song that kind of sets the tone for Advent, Kyrie by Mr. Mister. So we're going to dive right in as this week, Catholic Coast to Coast with Beacon of Truth playlist.
Yeah.
Get your loafers.
Yeah. I love the horns, man.
What do they call that? Stanky leg?
Yeah, there's nothing like real horns, man. I mean, the synth horns, you can just tell, you know? Oh, the guitar making a little noise up in there.
He's off in the back of the corner. The horns took the front of the stage.
Yeah, that's right.
This could almost be your theme song when you come out on stage for your speaking engagement.
It sounds like that, doesn't it? Like, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Deacon Harold. Then when we get a budget, we can get real horns on stage. And
oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. I just love the breathiness. I mean, you could certainly tell real horns and synth horns. As good as those patches are on the synth, you know, there's nothing like the breathiness and the punch of real horns. Love it.
Yeah, so good.
All right. I'm Deacon Harold Burke Sivers, listening to Beacon of Truth, and today we have a Beacon of Truth playlist episode. We're taking a look at the song Kyrie by Mr. Mister. That is a song that Ace and I are going to take a look at today, and of course, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, beacon@ewtn.com.
Of course, we're always excited when we get a chance to check out Podcast Central because great shows like Sunday Catholic Word gives us a deeper dive into the Mass readings for each week. So if you want a better understanding or maybe something really connected and you want to go back and reflect on it from different perspectives within those of like faith, you can do that. Easy to find when you go to Podcast Central, EWTN.com/podcast, and just look for Sunday Catholic Word.
All right, my friends, a special Beacon of Truth playlist episode today. We're taking a look at Kyrie, the song by Mr. Mister. And, of course, we'd love to hear from you. send us an email, beacon@ewtn.com. So Mr. Mister was a popular band back in the 80s. And this song, Kyrie, was released on their album Welcome to the Real World. That was released right after, 84. Yeah, this is during my, this has been my sophomore year in college. Christmas of 85. And it was number one song on the Billboard 100 back in March of 86 is when it hit number one. And where it was number one for a couple of weeks. And it also hit, I think, number one in a couple other countries as well. I think in UK it was number 11.
Yeah.
And in March, that same time in March of 86. So popular song, a lot of people know it. Do you know if Mr. Mister is still around, if they're touring or anything?
Not that I'm aware of. In getting ready for today's show, though, I did discover that they actually put, because it fit, they put the phrase Kyrie eleison in, thinking there's no way pop radio will play this song. And then, of course, it went all the way to number one. So again, you can play with phrases that you think will somehow dismiss your song or dismiss, the Lord, But he's like, nope, you're going to say my name? Number one, baby. All the way to the top.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if we dive into the song here, so obviously it starts off Kyrie eleison. And again, that's very, very familiar to Catholics listening because that's the Greek for Lord have mercy. And so often in Mass, you hear them sing Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. So the song starts off, Lord have mercy. And I just wonder, when this song came out, if you weren't a person of faith, would you understand, like, I don't think you would understand what that means or what they're saying.
Yeah, not at all.
You know how you have songs like Blinded by the Light? Remember that?
Sure.
By Manfred Mann and the Earth Band. And Blinded, and you say, it's like, what? Wait, what are they saying there?
Yeah.
What was that again? And you hear all kinds of wacky interpretation of what you think they're singing there. And I can imagine it would be the same for a song like this if people didn't, wait, is that, they went, oh, wait, that's just Greek. If they wouldn't understand what that is. I just was wondering what people would thought that they were saying there.
Sure. Well, and it happened with Phil Collins' Sussudio. When he wrote the song, he just made up a jumble word thinking, I'll fix it later. We'll put something in there that makes sense. And he couldn't. So for years, people were like, Googling, looking in the dictionary, what is Sussudio? What is he saying? What's the hidden message? He's like, nope, it's just a nonsense word.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like everybody had to know, what is Kyrie eleison? So I would think the education of that phrase became common in, that place of the 80s because people were seeking it out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I wonder what the response, obviously it's number one, so people really like the song.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said there. For not shying away from your faith. You said some of the background, this was a traumatic incident that happened to one or more of the band members?
Yeah, they didn't necessarily specify what the traumatic event was, but, in a day and age where, articles and interviews were less about the band's personal life and more about their experiences on stage and, playing to the persona of the rock star lifestyle or whatever, I feel like in this day and age, that would be the probing question. Well, tell us about that traumatic event, right? At least that's, as an interviewer, that's what I would want to know is, well, what happened that brought you to this song? But yeah, I mean, I would think too, especially because John Lennon used to always say when you're writing a song, tell the truth and make it catchy or make it singable. And to me, to be able to sing the name of the Lord so freely, even if people don't necessarily understand the full meaning, there is still connotations that come with that, and they want to understand, what am I singing? So again, we beacon of truth. We talk about the truth of God's word. What better way than in a song to be singing phrases that are just at the front of our lips. So that, again, like if you don't know what to pray, you're not sure where you are with God. I mean, Lord have mercy. I mean, that's just not a good-looking woman walked in the room and you had, a full house moment. You really are asking for God's aid.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And a good reminder for us, we should always be calling on the name of the Lord.
Amen.
Right? Lord, have mercy.
Yep.
And so the verse, the wind blows hard against this mountainside, across the sea into my soul. So this immediately reminds me of the apostles in the boat on the Sea of Galilee, and the wind is blowing hard and pushing against the boat, and Jesus sleeping in the back of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, they're all freaking out. Oh, and they, Jesus, we're drowning. Don't you care? You're going to save us. And Jesus rebukes the wind, so, which is also, you can see a foreshadowing of that in one of the Psalms as well. It talks about they sailed in the sea in ships, and the wind blew, and rattled the ship, but then God calmed the seas, and brought them to the haven that they desired.
Yeah.
Right. Which would be heaven. So obviously this wind blowing is a reference to whatever they may be going through. And we feel like that sometimes as well, that the wind of whatever is happening that we're suffering with is rocking our world at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and also I love too the imagery of that, because so much in worship music is this way, where they're painting the pictures of mountains and oceans and sandy beaches and whatever, because it's the vastness, the endlessness of it, that either we're feeling consumed or we're feeling blessed, or, it goes, the imagery there goes on so many levels. So I love how this starts in a, Lord have mercy mindset, to the fact of God's vastness, of a worshipful moment of Lord, I need your mercy, and I am worshiping whatever you choose to give me in an abundance.
Yeah, and in fact, he says that this wind is blowing into my soul.
Yeah,
so it's penetrating deeply. I mean, he's feeling this not just physically, but spiritually. It's affecting him at a deeper level of his being.
Yeah,
which is what pain does. It's the pain of rejection, the pain of a physical ailment, the pain of when someone abandons us or cheats us or whatever it may be. But there's the physical pain that we feel, but then as we reflect on it, it goes deeper into our soul. And it says it reaches into where I cannot hide, setting my feet upon the road. So you can't hide from it, you can't turn from it, you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Whatever happening is happening. And he said, setting my feet upon the road. That's very interesting, because now he said, okay, this wind is blowing, it's penetrating my soul. I can't hide from it, I can't run, and this is setting me on a path somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He realizes that this traumatic event is leading him someplace. He's now on a road. Maybe he's not on a road where he thought he was going, but now he's on a different road, and this road is leading him somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, because road images are used in so many songs anyway. Yeah. So it's the long and winding road, the endless road, all these things. Because again, as we do in our faith, as you hear on this show a lot and others, is we're supposed to be on the narrow path, the narrow road that leads to Jesus, that leads to heaven. That thing. Because again, if it was just wide, we'd all just fall on it by accident, right? There is a reason that it is narrow, and that we're to stay focused with every step that we take. So I love the use of setting my feet upon the road, because that's what God does, right? He sets us where we need to be rooted.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And it also reminds me of Isaiah. Foreshadowing John the Baptist, the voice crying out in the desert, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. That the Lord will, whatever path that we're on, even though it may be jagged, rough, crooked, that the Lord, when we have him in our life, will help make it straight. Which again, to cry out, Lord, have mercy. Asking the Lord to be present in those moments.
Yep.
I'm Deacon Harold Brooks Sivers, listening to Beacon of Truth. And today we're taking a look on our Beacon of Truth playlist episode at the song Kyrie by Mr. Mister. And of course, we'd love for you to be part of the program. Send us an email today, beacon@ewtn.com. All right. And so it's continuing to verse 2. My heart is old. It holds my memories. My body burns like a gem-like flame. So a couple things here. My heart is old. But say you're in your 20s, right? But you're saying your heart is old. It doesn't mean, I don't think it means physically old, like, you know, you have the heart of an 85-year-old. No. Why is it old? Because it holds my memories. Now think about that. If your memory is like a computer storage, think of how many terabytes of information will be stored there. Memories from going back to childhood. I say, even in your mid-20s, think of all the memories, the seconds, the minutes, the hours, the days, the months, the years of visual and audio memories that have been compiled. And you're only still in your 20s. That's why I think he said your heart is, in a sense, old, you know, because of the memories that your heart holds. Your body like a gem-like flame. I think of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, that flame coming from the heart of Jesus. You know, that even in the midst of what's going on, you know, our hearts are burning with love for God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a phrase we say a lot of times of, you know, well, have you met so-and-so that they're an old soul? I mean, it's that way. I could easily say that about my kiddos just because in the way I raised them through music and then their own life experiences, right? Because you see things, and I think even there's a running joke of like Gen X, you know, we were born 30 and we're still 30, right? You know, it's that frame of mind of how you were raised or the traumatic things that you face really at an age that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine that to a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old. But there's a part of you that has to grow up to embrace and to heal through that. And obviously with God's help in a Lord have mercy situation on this child, on my soul, on theirs, on the relationship. But that's the beauty of God's mercy, is that he meets us where we are. And even if it ages us a little bit, the great thing is we can then be available to help other people who are about to go through the same thing.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And, you know, and God is with us in that pain and with his mercy.
Yeah.
So it may not feel that he is there, but he's definitely with us along the way. And it continues verse 2. This is interesting. Somewhere between the soul and soft machine is where I find myself again. What do you make of that verse?
Well, I mean, I think it's a matter of he's making choices that put him in a place that, okay, I said I wasn't going to be here again, or I didn't want to go down this path or this adventure, but it's we're all guilty of it, right? It's like, yeah, I've experienced this, and I refuse to go down that road ever again. I'm going to make better choices. And then in a moment of weakness or just emotional whatever, we go down there again. So I feel like that's his description of his own journey of why okay, here I am again. Lord have mercy. Come on. I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, you know, that's a great point. I think of people struggling with addictions like alcohol, like, oh, here I am in rehab again.
Yep.
Or drug addiction or porn or whatever it may be. Here I am again. Here I am again. You know, so yeah, and this is where this is where I find myself again. And what happens when he finds himself there again? The chorus, Kyrie eleison, down the road I must travel. You know, Lord have mercy, Kyrie eleison, through the darkness of the night. Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? You know, Kyrie eleison, on a highway in the light.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love that. So, and so, yeah, he finds himself there again, but yet that's when he calls on the Lord.
Yeah.
When I'm here again. What do? I don't wallow in my own self-pity. You know, I call on the Lord to help me yet again.
Yeah.
Like I did the last time, you know, but again, I like that he's calling on the Lord and not giving up.
Sure.
you know?
Well, and I love the choice of words there, because it's the reality of down the road I must travel. Because again, when you ask for God's mercy, it's not for him to pick you up and just place you somewhere else. He is walking with you. He is illuminating the path of take this step, take this step, take this step. Because again, we have to walk that journey. If we don't want to end back up between the soul and soft machine, we have to find ourselves walking the path with God's help and his mercy, so that we know, okay, this is how I get here, so that I don't go down the other road that seems much more familiar and is much more of a habit for me.
Yeah, and through the darkness of the night, because that's what it feels like.
Yep.
The deep darkness. Where I'm going, will you follow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, Lord, have mercy. Are you going to be with me? Are you sure? The confidence, I love how David in the Psalms, is just confident that Lord, I know you're going to be with me. He may not be there right now, but I know you're going to be there.
Yeah.
And he's asked the question, are you going to follow? Are you going to be with me in this? On a highway in the light. That's it. So through the darkness of the night, there's that hope. There's that beacon of light. The light at the end of the tunnel, as we say sometimes. The light that shines in the darkness. And that's Jesus. He is the light that penetrates the deepest darkness, that penetrates that pain in our soul with his light of love and mercy and truth.
Yeah, and think about this too. I love, as a songwriter, I love the imagery of highway in the light, because again, we're not slowing down, we're on the highway, right? So we're going at a certain speed, and so with God's mercy, I'm still going to go with the speed that I'm at, because I'm on this highway, I'm on this road, but God is illuminating where I'm going. It's like suddenly I understand how the GPS communicates to me. Go here, go here. And what does the GPS do when you get off route? It doesn't tell you you're wrong. It says rerouting. But it always reroutes you to an illuminated path, and it may show you multiple paths, and God sometimes does that. Okay, I'm giving you 3 options. If you whichever one you take, I got you. But you know the path to take. One may get you there 10 minutes early. One may get you there an hour later. Take the scenic route, so to speak. But again, you're on the highway in the light, which is Christ.
Yeah, that's it. And the highway could be scary because you're going pretty fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're feeling you're little bit losing control, on the highway there if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So you have to keep your eyes focused on the road ahead. I love that. And then we get into verse 3, the last verse here. When I was young, I thought of growing old. I love that. That's very profound.
Yes.
Because I can remember thinking, I can't wait till I get older, because there were certain things you wanted to do that you couldn't do because you were told you're not old enough.
Yeah.
Right? Or you're too young, you can't participate. And so reflecting back on that time, of what my life would mean to me. So now he's looking back with perspective. When I was young, I thought of going old. Here's what it means to be an adult, and I can't wait to do this. I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to be a doctor. I can't wait to, whatever the Lord is calling me to, what my life would mean to me. Would I have followed down my chosen road, or only wished what I could be? I love that. That's very, very profound, I think.
Yeah, and the thing too, when you process through your faith filter, it allows you to realize how much getting older didn't have all the perks that you and when was the last time you ate dessert first? All the things that we said, when I'm older, I'm gonna, but we also were processing, what does this mean? Why am I going through this? Am I here? Because I went through that several times, but specifically 2017 stands out as the most recent, of just that, Lord, what decisions have I made that has put me in this position and here? What is it that you have done to orchestrate to get me here? And as those two truths meet, what does it mean moving forward? What am I to learn? How can I break my own cycle to be where I've always supposed to have been? So again, we can ask the meaning of life, but it's really the meaning of purpose, the meaning of position of where you're at.
Yeah, I love that. Would I have followed down my chosen road? And so that shows that we have choices and decisions that we make about what we do with our lives.
Yeah.
And those are free decisions, and only wished what I could be. So there's almost a disparity there. Okay, would I have followed on my chosen road? Would I have chosen, or only wish that I could be? Mm-hmm. So he's, and I think we look back with, what if I would have done this instead of this?
Yeah.
I was talking about this with, it was on the tour with the Australian speakers. We're just in the car, one of our long drives through Texas, and we talk about faith, all kinds of things, music, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And, one of the things that came up there was like, do you ever think sometimes, like, what if you made a different decision? Not saying that you regret your choice to be married and to have kids, but, they said, Deacon, do you ever think about what it's like if you would have stayed in a monastery, if you would have went back? Yeah, and I do. That's true. I do think about that sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I don't long for it because this is the path that God has me on,
right?
And I embrace it. I accept it. But yeah, every once in a while, I wonder what life would have been like if I would have done this. And all of us went around talking about, and all of us admitted, we think about it sometimes. Not longing for it, not yearning for it, not regretting the decisions that we made, but understanding that, wow, life could have been very different had I chosen this path. And this verse reminds me, who do we make those decisions with? We make it ourselves, or do we make it with God?
Yeah. Well, and it's people who, and I've been guilty of too, saying, well, if I knew then what I know now,
yeah.
But we weren't in a place to know it, and we had to walk the path to learn it. So if you had gone any other path, you couldn't you can't be plucked from the highway onto another spot in the highway at a certain speed of your life and expect it to just suddenly make sense and be, the country road versus the highway speed, it's the choices that you've made, which God takes into account for your life, that he knows 10 million steps ahead. Okay, he's going to choose this, she's going to choose that, and this is where I'm going to show them my love. This is where I'm going to help them as they break their own hearts or have it broken by something else or someone else, and then I'm going to heal them through it, because then it's all a matter of what path and choices that are made so that we can see God. So if where you are is, no matter how much pain you had to endure and overcome, it put you in a place where you were closer to God, that is the reason why it happened.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time when you're going through it, you felt you made the right decision at that time.
Yep.
Right. So it's not like flip a coin. No, it wasn't flip a coin. It was like at this time, and you just have to trust that was the decision that you were thinking and working with God at that time.
Amen.
Love that. Man, I love these Beacon of Truth playlist episodes. We go through some great songs and look at this from a faith perspective. I hope that was powerful for you. Now, remember, my friends, you can stream today's show and all the shows of Beacon of Truth, including this playlist episode and the Soulful Songs, by visiting Podcast Central at EWTN.com/radio. And looking forward to being with you again tomorrow. And until then, my friends, may Almighty God bless you, keep you, and protect you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I do enjoy talking about music. That is the latest edition of the Beacon of Truth playlist, Kyrie by Mr. Mister. Hopefully the next time you hear that song, you'll hear it with a different perspective. But also, you can check out previous episodes of the playlist when you go to Podcast Central, EWTN.com/podcast, or subscribe. That way you don't miss future episodes. I am Ace McKay. When Catholics Coast to Coast returns, we're going to have an adventure in imperfect living. Greg opens up his first box of author copies, revealing the new title of his book and also how our walk through the book will actually help us with our wounds, trauma, and healing. We'll get to that with Adventures in Imperfect Living coming up with Catholics Coast to Coast.
The destination for great Catholic audio programming is EWTN Podcast Central, featuring the best of EWTN radio, as well as faith-filled podcasts from our friends and affiliates across the nation, all in one place, all free. If it's central to the faith, you can find it on EWTN Podcast Central. It's like podcast heaven. Visit EWTN.com/radio/podcasts today.
So this is a show that for me is a long time coming.
How long, Greg? How many years?
Well, yeah. I mean, seriously,
If you really
this is
think
like,
about it.
If you really think about it, it's years in the making. So if you're watching the video, and I hope you are, you would have seen I actually caught the delivery person delivering the box. There's a box right here in front of us. It's an unopened box. I have a box cutter.
Be careful now. Don't
Waiting.
you cut too deeply.
Waiting to cut open to this box. Inside this box, what's in the box? What's in the box? There's something very special inside the box, and we're going to open it on this episode. We actually tried to record a show, and it's probably God in His mercy had it go kablooey a couple weeks ago. We thought we were recording the video. I could see it's recording the video, see it's recording the audio. Everything seems to be working. But we realized like halfway through that something was wrong with the video recording, and I realized what it was. I didn't have the hard drive hooked up to all the equipment. So it didn't work. So that gives us the opportunity to sort of revisit what's in this box. And this box contains my life in some ways, which is really weird to say. Inside this box are the first 10 copies that I'm receiving of my new book, which I don't even think on the podcast we've actually said what the final title is. I think that we've been recording some audio and some video and back and forth. We haven't done a show since the last time we did a video version of our show. The last time people tuned in, the name of my book was Discovering the Love of Eternal Wisdom. But it's changed since then. And so, you know, if you get the emails from Rosary Army, then you know what it is. Or if you follow me on what little social networking I do, you know it.
But if you live under a rock, then maybe you don't know.
Maybe you don't know. So, and there's a story behind that as well. So let's back up, and I'm going to tell the story once again. And I apologize, I'll do it quickly. At the beginning of 2025, we ended our giving campaign for last year. We had our focus for Rosary Army. And one of the things, there were multiple things in my mind. And one of the things I thought would be beneficial was if we could do something again that would put a lot of visibility back on the work of Rosary Army again. And so I had actually played around and had the idea of doing a book or something along those lines specifically about Rosary Army. So that was one idea I had. I had another idea about doing a book about the history of Catholic podcasting. And let me tell you, there's a huge audience that wants to read that story. There's not. And that was the second idea. The third idea was I had been playing with a bunch of memoir-like essays for the last few years on my Substack. But the most important idea I had was I wanted to promote this little-known book by our dear friend, St. Louis Marie de Montfort, called The Love of Eternal Wisdom. And so a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2023, near the end of the year, Gene Yang, who is an author and graphic novelist, long time known to Rosary Army audiences. He was the very first person I ever interviewed on the Rosary Army podcast way back in 2005. And Gene was one of the first people we interviewed on the radio. And so we've known Gene virtually for years and years. He did the Rosary comic book. He's done American Born Chinese, a lot of other very well-known titles. He's currently writing the official Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book. He's written Superman. He's written for Marvel. But Gene was in town, and we finally had the chance after 2 decades to meet in person. And we went out to eat, and he asked me if I was working on anything. And I told him I had this memoir idea, and I had this book I wanted to write to promote The Love of Eternal Wisdom by Louis de Montfort. And Gene was the first person who says, well, why can't it be both? Why can't you kind of combine them? And I thought that would be interesting if I could figure out how to do it. And so I spent the next few months trying it, and I couldn't do it. And last summer, I all but gave up on it. I went on a retreat. My intention was to pray and work on it a little bit. I came back saying, it's not the time. And I just wasn't sure. It felt like it was too much about me and not enough about de Montfort's Love of Eternal Wisdom. But I kept reading Eternal Wisdom. I kept reading that book over and over again. And then we had our giving campaign, and we barely reached 50% of our goal for last year. And so I'm doing a lot of praying. I'm like, what do we need to do here, God? What are you calling me to do? What realistically needs to be done for the good of this apostolate, for the good of our family? What do you want me to do? And so that's where I was playing around with that idea of telling the story of Rosary Army somehow. So then comes February. We're a month into the year already. And I wrote an email. I just got the inspiration, just said, just write it. Just write an email. Just write an email. And I just sat down, and I knew the acquisitions editor at Sophia Institute Press. When she was at a different publisher a few years ago, we had gone back and forth on a book idea that didn't go anywhere. And I just said, hey, I got these 4 ideas. And I outlined the ones I just said. You know, the history of Catholic podcasting, Rosary Army, love of eternal wisdom, memoir. I said, if you're interested in any of these, let me know. We could talk. She literally called me the next day. Long story short, she said, why can't you combine your memoir with the De Montfort thing? So she basically said what Gene had said a year plus before. And I said, okay, let me try it again. And I spent the next 2 weeks, I wrote an introduction and I wrote a first chapter, and it was introduction and then De Montfort's introduction from his book. And that was different from the first time I tried to write it. I was going to write this book that just talked about De Montfort's book. And I thought, well, what if we can actually get the permission to republish the whole thing? Because ultimately, while I think what I have to share is important, particularly for people who have struggled with loving themselves, allowing God to love them, that have dealt with trauma and difficulties in life and are trying to understand what God might be doing. While I think that's important, the number one thing I want is for people to read this book by De Montfort. I want them to discover the love of eternal wisdom. So I sent it, and then within a week, I think, I was under contract. So in like 3 weeks, it went from email to contract to I'm writing a book.
Okay, so I have a quick question. You crafted that email to the acquisitions editor with a rough outline.
Yeah.
So you had, right?
No. I literally said to Heidi, here are my 4 ideas. And then we got on the phone the next day.
Okay.
And we just sort of bantered some ideas around. And so there was no outline yet.
So you didn't have a chapter, completed chapter of any kind.
No, I spent the next 2 weeks writing it. And I sent it to her. And then when she saw it, then she said, yes.
Okay. So
then she could see. And I said, basically, the whole book would be this way. It would be an essay from me that has the tonality of the corresponding De Montfort chapter, right? So whatever De Montfort was writing about, I basically shared a part of my life. And
that illustrates the point.
That illustrated the point.
Sure.
And I worked quotes in from De Montfort. So by the time you read De Montfort's chapter, you've already been introduced to it in a real lived example.
Right. Okay.
That hopefully will help people when they look at my story, then they'll start seeing their own story and seeing how De Montfort's words can correspond to their life.
Well, that's huge right there, because I've read a handful of saint books in my Catholic journey.
Are you calling me a saint, Jennifer? Thank you. Not yet.
Well,
I'm working on it.
Didn't say that.
I'm not there yet.
However, as a reader of saintly material, while I appreciate the inspiration that saint books provide the readers, there is a part of me and my humanness and my frailty and my brokenness. I'm like, wow, that's big shoes to fill. Yeah. How could I ever possibly come close? Because I know who I am. I see my dirt, my filth, my sins. And then I look at that saint, who had a hard time, had struggles. Yes, not saying they didn't have struggles, but they did it. Like, they succeeded. They've won the race. I'm still in the race. Where am I going to go? So that's always there when I read saint books. There's this reality that I can't escape because I'm still alive and I'm still duking it out and my race is not over. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a big difference. You're reading someone who's already won versus someone who's still somewhere in the rankings of running. They don't know what place they're in at any given time.
Or in my case, has tripped, fallen over, and is bleeding on the sidelines.
Exactly, right. Now, of course, I know what's in your book. I know the content of the author.
I don't have to read the book. I've lived it. However, there are many ways that you can share your story. There's so many choices you have to make, things that you have to decide, do I include this or not? Is this
part of the narrative that I want to share or not, and you have to stay on target like the whole time you're writing this. And at the same time, you're being authentic and real and revealing and transparent. And I'm reading this as you're writing it. Like when you're done with, you would like write 3 or 4 chapters and then give me a chunk so I could sort of dive in. And I was like literally on the edge of my seat reading this. And I know this, I know what's coming, but I don't know how you're going to say it. And that was part of the excitement for me as someone who's very, very close to you. And the love and the tenderness with which you handled yourself. It was like you were being tender to you when you were writing about you, which was an interesting dynamic that I don't even know if you were aware that were doing that.
It had to be that way because the whole purpose is the love of eternal wisdom is about letting the love of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is eternal wisdom. Letting Jesus love you. And if I'm harsh on myself, then I'm not letting him. I'm not letting the love of eternal wisdom be a part of my life. And so, what was the title of the book while I was writing it? The whole time I'm writing it, the working title was Discovering the Love of Eternal Wisdom, and it was about my discovery of the love of Jesus Christ. Despite all of the years and all the things that I've done in ministry, there was a lie that I was telling myself, which was that God didn't really love me. And in many ways, I was just trying to earn his love by the things I was doing. And God's love is not something to be earned. It's something freely given. I didn't know how to accept a freely given love from God. I could only accept a love that I earned. And so that was part of the discovery in reading de Montfort. But again, and I say this in the very beginning of the book, that you can skip all my essays if you want. If I could just get you to read de Montfort, then my mission's accomplished. But I do really believe that my stories with de Montfort's my prayer is that it's going to be helpful to a 21st century audience. I mean, de Montfort's words are 300 years old. He wrote it in the early 1700s, just before he was ordained a priest. But that's why I think it's so important for people to discover this. They know about true devotion. They know about total consecration. They know about the secret of the Rosary, secret of Mary, the other works that he did. Most Catholics have never heard of the love of eternal wisdom. And I really believe that this is the time now where we need it. In a world of division and a world of hate, in a world where people are, the love of eternal wisdom is needed right now. So writing the book, I've already done a lot of interviews for it. And I've had a lot of people ask me, was it healing? As if it's done, like I'm healed. And just this morning, I did an interview on EWTN radio on Catholic Connection. And almost immediately, I got an email from a guy who was listening, I think in Michigan. And the subject line was just anxiety. And he said he's Catholic and he's dealt with anxiety and childhood trauma. And he's going to a therapist and he's trying to get off medicine and all these things. And just he says, what word would you have for me? And I told him, I said, I still have to deal with anxiety and depression. The big difference is, particularly since this book became a part of my life, is I deal with it better. It's still a thorn. It's still there. It's not like, if you had cancer and you learned of a treatment that eases it up, but you still have cancer. I still have mental health issues. I've just learned, and de Montfort helped me to find that love of Jesus Christ and to accept it in a way that I've never been able to do before. And so it's been a pretty glorious process. As I was writing it, and I think we've shared this on the show, a few things. Number one, Pope Francis died and we got Pope Leo XIV elected Pope, and he's an Augustinian Pope. Well, I was already writing the book and I already had St. Augustine in mind. But now we have this Augustinian Pope, and it just was an affirmation while I was in the midst of writing it to really just swing for the fences on this one. And for longtime listeners, and we've kind of started in the last 7-8 years or so, started to share more and more content that's really personal, more so than some stuff that we did in the early years of our podcasting and radio. On radio, we never would have talked about mental health stuff. We never would have talked about sexual child abuse. We never would have talked about physical and verbal abuse in other areas. We never would have talked about childhood trauma and young adult trauma and sinfulness and shame and some of the terrible, terrible things I did as a young adult. And it's in this book. But I did it because St. Augustine did it first. I don't think I could have done it without his example. In St. Augustine's Confessions, he laid out all of his terribleness so that God may be glorified in the redemption that he offers despite all of what St. Augustine had done. And so I also know, and I've been hearing this already, it's kind of amazing, not just from men, but I'm hearing from men, I'm hearing from a lot of people who grew up in the 70s and 80s, in the decades before and after, right? There was a weakness that in our faith development that was given to us from society, from the church, from families, there was something missing. And so there's one quote, and I actually didn't even know it made it in here until or an endorsement until like last week I found out that Kevin Wells, the author, gave a quote, and I'll read it in a minute, but he talked about, someone growing up in the wintertime post-Vatican II, and it's not to just disparage Vatican II, that's not the intention, but there was a lot of invention, and I talked about it in this book. I mean, I remember beach balls being thrown around at Mass on Palm Sunday, that kind of stuff. It was like all these inventions. It was very confusing to know what was what and take it seriously. So there was a lot of fragility that ended up happening throughout my teen and young adult life and behavior and sinfulness that I have been carrying around like a blanket of shame for the last few decades. And I don't think it's still there. I know it's still there, but it doesn't weigh as heavily on me now. And again, de Montfort, I think I have to credit him for that. So this is it. I mean, I think about times when we've moved, right before you and I got married, right before a job change. I've always loved what I call razor edge moments in life. I've shared this with you before, haven't I?
I'm not familiar with you using that terminology.
So like when I'm at a job that I'm about to leave to start a new job, it's like I'm right on the edge of, it's like everything is balanced on this fine line that cannot be repeated very often in our lives. When we were about to get married, it's like on our wedding day, that one day, September 16th, 1995, part of the day I was not married and part of the day I was. There's no other day in my life that will ever be like that day where those two, I was on such a fine razor's edge. Does that make sense?
It's like you're standing on a fulcrum.
It's going to go one way or the other. And you and I co-wrote the first book that I had published was co-written with you. I've had 2 other books since then. This is my 4th book. And I believe this is where I get choked up. This is the most important thing I've ever written or created. We've done a lot of amazing things. I can't imagine. I mean, honey, this is it. I know it's hard to say this to my wife. If I were to have a heart attack as soon as the show gets posted, I would hope that God would say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You wrote that book that I prepared you for 55 years to write, so that other people can turn to me and seek my mercy." If that happens. But right now, I'm on that razor's edge because I haven't cut the tape yet. I haven't seen the book.
Now,
I don't know. I haven't seen the photograph of it. I'm not entirely sure how thick it is going to be.
Well, I mean, for those who are watching this on video right now, you see the name of the book because it has been regularly appearing behind you.
It's up there right now,
constantly throughout this conversation.
Okay, I got to tell that story real quick. So the final name of the book, God Doesn't Hate Me After All. I have to give credit to Patrick Lencioni. So he's a business writer, New York Times bestseller. We had him on the show years ago. I asked him if he would take a look at the book and offer an endorsement. And he got it. And almost right away, I got an email from him. He says, "We need to talk. I have some ideas about the title." And so he and I had just the greatest conversation. We talked for almost an hour, just catching up. And then at the end of it, he got around to the title and he said, discovering the love of eternal wisdom is sort of like inside Catholic baseball. A lot of Catholics don't know who Louis de Montfort is. And then the ones who do, they may not know that book. And the title didn't really say what people are going to get from it or the feelings that come from it. Mm-hmm. And so he had some thoughts, and he actually, God bless you, Pat, he sent me a whole list of title ideas. And I let Sophia Institute know we were getting ready to, the cover, one version of the cover had already been designed. So anyway, it put everything on hold for a couple of weeks from Sophia Institute Press. And thankfully they agreed. Let's hold on and wait for the New York Times bestseller author, Patrick Lencioni. Let's wait and see what he has to say about the title.
That'd be good.
And then Pat came back with this list of title ideas. And one of them was God Doesn't Hate Me. And then Sophia added the After All. And then I said, it really means a lot to me. Here goes another joke. Mm-hmm. It really means a lot to me that my dear friend de Montfort's name is there and the name of his book is there, because my book is about his book, mm-hmm. and the way his book has changed my life. And so the subtitle is Discovering Louis de Montfort's Love of Eternal Wisdom. And so I think it's a great title. I'm very pleased with it.
And for all those involved at Sophia's marketing team, graphic designers, even down to the font, the color, the feel, we had it down to 2 different covers, and we polled our family and friends to see, all right, which one grabs your attention first. And it was all very exciting to get us to the place that we are right now. And so all the decisions have been made. You have been on pins and needles with every decision.
I mean, I'm taking this
along the way.
I'm taking this so seriously. And
this was the final. Now we're at the point of holding the book that has only existed digitally, really, up to now. This is the first physical experience you're about to have with the book, and we're sharing it with you because we want you to be part of this moment.
And so this is my razor's edge, right? It's sort of like, what isn't it? Isn't it like Schrodinger's cat or something like that? You know, you don't know if the cat's dead or alive until you open up the box. It's like, right now I haven't opened the box. I just cut the tape on the box.
Yeah.
This is a moment that I'm going to forever remember before I open the box. And then everything is after this. And I know that.
So happy birthday, happy Father's Day, Merry Christmas. That's all the gift giving. This is like huge. Nothing compares to this moment. Okay, Greg.
All for you, Mary. Totus tuus.
This is for Mary. Oh boy.
There it is. Jennifer.
Ooh, look at that.
There's your copy. You get the first copy.
Aw, thank you, baby. I love you so much. Ooh, it's beautiful.
It's really emotional.
It's beautiful.
That's it. God Doesn't Hate Me After All, Discovering Louis de Montfort's Love of Eternal Wisdom. Right on the cover, Scott Hahn says, this book is so powerful, it leaves a crater when it lands in the soul. The quote that I had mentioned, Kevin Wells said, let's applaud Greg Willits for telling this searing memoir of a confused young man unhappily raised in the fumes of a post-Vatican II wintertime. And I thought that was a great little quote.
Wow, what a quote.
There it is. This is it. That's fantastic. The one thing I wanted to check, there was one thanks that was supposed to be included. Oh, good, it made it in there. There was one last minute acknowledgement.
Okay.
And it made it in there. And so that's it. That's the book, folks. It's available right now. Sophia Institute Press. You can buy it from there. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. The audiobook will be available on Audible on November 18th, the official release date. It's emotional.
Baby, it's amazing. It's done, Craig.
This is my life story told alongside my favorite saint.
And you know what? Life is not over yet. You're still living. The book could only go to the present because we're still alive, still working it out every day.
Well, there you go. God does not hate you after all, and great insights to add to your reading material for the new year. Adventures in Imperfect Living, easy to find. You want more on this episode or ones you might have missed? Just go to Podcast Central, EWTN.com/podcast, or simply subscribe wherever you like to stream. That way you don't miss what's to come. I am Ace McKay. Going to bug out and enjoy the rest of the weekend. You do the same. And of course, remember to stay tuned, because as we head into Advent, we are going through this journey together. And of course, it helps helps us to be defined by God and not by the world. And we hope that is how you stay comfortable in your own skin. I'll see you next time with Catholics Coast to Coast.